Welcome to the Russ Joy Show. I'm Russ Joy. Figure that out because you're smart. It's also the name of the show. Happy Friday. The Flyers won back-to-back games. Don't look now. Your team, your town, your Philadelphia Flyers. They're getting close to a playoff run. Just like we all hoped they would. Back-to-back wins. A confounding team. I tweeted that out last night, and I had somebody say to me, I didn't know what confounding meant, but now I know. I'll tell you what, it's also fitting. You can see this probably on the stream here. I found this. This was like a thing that the Flyers gave to the media a few years ago, the Anytime Anywhere. I think this is actually a wine tumbler. It has coffee in it. Some of you may remember this. But I think 4 months ago, maybe longer, I was like, I'm going to do a 72-hour fast. And I thought about it. And I think I got to about 36 hours. Maybe it was about 40 hours. And I bailed. I don't remember why I bailed, but I did. And so I just got back. I was in New York all week, which is why we didn't do a Wednesday show. And I stopped at Talercio's on the way to radio, right? So I went from New York, worked out of the office, and I came down to Talercio's, which if you haven't found it yet, they're New York fans, which is unfortunate, but incredible food, massive subs. If you are somebody who finds food content to watch on TikTok or Instagram or whatever, you've probably seen it. So I stopped there and I got a sub. I ate half of it. And then I went down and I did Snow the Goalie Radio with Bill Meltzer, which I actually have to put into the podcast feed over on Snow the Goalie. No big deal. I maybe fell behind on my duties there having to do that. I got to make a note to myself to do that later. Anyway, that doesn't matter. Well, it does, but it doesn't. So that happened. And then when I got home, I said to my wife, I didn't eat a ton while I was in New York because you're just constantly going. And there were some client events and they were great. And I ate a little bit there. And then I said to my wife, I was like, I think I got a 72-hour fast in me. So I ate the second half of the Talercio sub late last night. I ate a 3-pack of Tasty Cakes that I had bought for my way up to New York. And I have decided that I am actively going to work on a 72-hour fast. Now, as of right now, we are 14 hours into the 72-hour fast. 14 hours. Some people can't make it 14 hours. Hashtag proud. So 14 hours into 72. I got 58 to go. I don't know if I'm going to do it, but we'll find out. I'm going to try really, really hard to get all the way where I need to be. So everybody can just keep me in your thoughts here as we actually don't think about me. But do me a favor. Send good juju my way. I'm going to see if I can make it 72 hours. I think it'd be fun. So I'm doing black coffee. I have electrolyte packets or something. They apparently don't break a fast. So I figure if I do a coffee in the morning, an electrolyte packet in the middle of the day, maybe even the evening, and then either a coffee again at night or a tea, I think I should be okay. I don't know if I'm going to make it, but I'm going to try. The real issue is going to be Saturday night. Saturday night's the Flyers game. It's hard to say no to hot dogs. They're free. How do you say no to free hot dogs in a press box? How do you say no to candy? That's the other thing, too. I gotta give the Flyers credit here, right? If you go down there and you don't want to buy the media meal, which I haven't bought since pre-COVID, you can eat hot dogs, aka tubular meats. You can get soft pretzels. They got the Philly soft pretzels up there. They've got candy. It's typically M&M's, Reese's Pieces, and then usually a gummy candy of some sort. I don't remember what the last one was. They haven't done Swedish Fish in a long time, which makes me sad. They have popcorn. You've got coffee, not good at all. Soda, Smart Water, and then they bring out cookies during the second period. And I'm always grateful for the cookies. I've probably gone through more nights at Flyers games where I've eaten an additional 1,000 calories beyond what I need to. So the real struggle is going to be Saturday night. I think I can get through a Friday of Lent without eating. I'm pretty sure I can get through a good chunk of tomorrow without eating. The real key is going to be Saturday night. So let me think. All right, if I started this on Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday night, I would have to make it to Sunday night. If I can make it to Sunday night, then I can start eating it on Monday. Monday morning would be salmon and broccoli, which I started doing after the trip to Barcelona earlier this year. Which, by the way, is a hell of a breakfast. People think I'm nuts, but it's a great breakfast. Okay. Wow, a lot of comments coming in about the fast. Okay, here we go. Andrew Fawcett says, Tony Escargot needs to send cannolis now. If Tony Escargot sends those cannoli, which he has sent me twice. I think I got 2 orders of cannoli, right? I think it was 2. They'd have to go to somebody else in the house. They would. The hardest thing, too, is I bought like 14 bagels in New York. I went to 2 bagel spots because the kids have their respective favorite bagels. And there's some places that I have to stop if I'm in Manhattan. So I toasted up some bagels this morning. And did I want one? I did. Did I eat one? I did not. All right, we're going to go over to the comments here really quickly, and then we're going to get into today's show. I have no idea how long today's show is going to go, but we'll rock and roll. Ford is here. First comment in. I said on the On Pattison show, you didn't say it. Did they have you on as a guest, Ford? Okay. Ford commented on the stream for On Pattison with Cooney and Missinelli. The Sixers should tank the rest of the way. They seem to agree, but of course said it's, quote, not that simple yet is. In the NBA, tanking is as overt as it gets. I don't think there's another league in North American sports where it appears more egregious how tanking works. I mean, people were complaining about it with the Kings like a week or 2 before the trade deadline, that they were pulling out some of their best players in the third quarter and keeping them out the rest of the game with no injuries. So, yeah, I think it is that easy. Now, in the NHL, that might be a little bit different. Nick Abe is here, says, culture, baby. Robert Holston's over here on YouTube with a happy Friday the 13th. Do people freak out about Friday the 13th anymore? Is that a thing? I don't freak out about it. Do you freak about it? You can let me know. Okay. Nick Abe is also convinced Flyers are going to get the 15th pick. Hey, it might be the 20th or the 22nd at this rate. You never know. It's like they always say, once you get into the playoffs, you have no idea what happens. You get your doors blown off. All right, GJG 5087. Well, hey, everyone. Hello, GJG. How are you doing? Ford says, Ford has had his AC on, or had his AC on a few days ago, and it was 81 degrees. Ford then saw snow falling yesterday. Ford prefers the warmth. Why is Ford talking in the third person? Great question. Video guy Amadeo weighs in here on Biz. Says Biz needs to learn to shut up. He's engagement farming. He's 100% engagement farming. We can talk about that in a little bit. Paul Bissonette trolling Flyers fans. Don't feed the troll. Don't do it. Don't feed me. I'm going 72 hours without eating. At least I hope. Here's the real question. As I continue to take my own show off the rails. So if I get to 72 hours, that'll be Sunday night, which means that I will go to sleep, and then that means 72 hours probably becomes closer to like 80 hours. And then do I push it on Monday to go farther? See, the weird thing is I see that when people get to 72 hours and they're like, oh, it's easy. Is it? Is it really? I don't know. Casual Warzone guy says Flyers are going on a magical run right to the 14th overall pick. Oh, yeah, man. Come on now. Who doesn't want another Jet Lachenko? Come on. Brett Flair's going to find Jet Lachenko 2.0. Middle of the round. The OGJH is here. Hi, Russ. Hello. Andrew Fawcett's here. Good to see you. GJG says, do me a favor. Look at the Pens schedule. According to the playoff odds, they have a 63% chance of making it. There is no way. Yeah, no. They have an incredibly brutal stretch coming up. We did this on the Press Row show on, I think it was Monday. It might have been Monday. Maybe it was the game before that. Pittsburgh's got an incredibly tough schedule. If Pittsburgh somehow does make the playoffs, given the stretch run of playoff teams they have to face, they will absolutely deserve to make the playoffs, and then all of a sudden they feel like a dangerous team. JH says, we're so back going streaking. Please don't mention me if you go streaking. Thank you. Nick Abe throws out this idea, 6 points from a playoff spot. Yeah, 6 points. 6 points. I can't handle this crap. I think I've just reached the point now where I'm just angry all the time. Because on one hand, you could sit back and say to yourself, well, that'd be kind of cute. That'd be kind of fun. A little playoff run. And then you're also cognizant of what that means. I mean, here, let's just take a goosey gander here really quickly. We're going to look at it through two lenses, okay, since we're kind of starting in Flyers land. Let's just take a look. If you want to be a positive PD and you want to be like, all right, Flyers are in a spot where they could maybe make the playoffs. Let's just look through that lens if that's positive to you, okay? Okay, here's where we're at right now. The Flyers have 73 points in 65 games. That means they have 17 games left. That's a potential 34 points. They're not getting 34 points. Nor are they getting 0. They're going to get somewhere in between 0 and 34 points. So they are sitting in a spot where they're tied with Ottawa and Washington. That was a sneeze. They are tied on points with both Washington and Ottawa. Ottawa has a game in hand on Flyers. They have 3 games in hand on the Caps. When you look at the wild card, the Flyers are a mere 5 points back of Boston for the second wild card spot. They are 6 points back of the Red Wings, who are currently the number 1 wild card in. And in the case of both of those teams, right, the Flyers are either dead level in terms of games played with Boston, or they have 1 game in hand on Detroit. So you're looking at the wild card and you say 5 points back, 34 potential points remaining out there. Is it possible? In theory, sure. Kevin Garnett once said, anything is possible. Is it a great idea? No, but here we are. The Senators. Do I believe in the Ottawa Senators? I don't. Could the Flyers jump the Senators? I think they could. Could the Flyers catch Columbus? I'd say there's a non-zero chance that they could catch Columbus. And then that leads you from there to additional questions, right? Can they catch the Bruins? I don't know. Can they catch the Red Wings? I don't know. If you want to allow your mind to kind of wander a little bit, especially looking at where Pittsburgh is at in terms of their schedule over the next few weeks, I would actually say it's quite plausible that you will see some movement in the Metropolitan Division, probably the Islanders leapfrogging Pittsburgh. Will Pittsburgh fall out of one of those top 3 spots? If they do, well, then maybe you do see the Flyers move up. Like at that point, maybe it happens. But boy, oh boy, oh boy. I don't know. If Pittsburgh falls out, I think that there's a chance you see Columbus. Maybe Columbus is able to kind of climb that table a bit. Maybe Columbus becomes the 3rd team in the Metropolitan. And then Pittsburgh and Philly and Ottawa are all kind of battling. But this is a mess. Like, this is a mess on a few levels, but we'll talk about it. So there's your positive way, right? If you want to look at this and feel warm and fuzzy deep down in your tum-tum, right? If you want to feel good about things, right? If you're the Flyers, you theoretically are within striking distance. Okay? A mere 5 points. One of the things that has kind of been held out there is the Flyers have so many teams to leapfrog over if they're going to try to make the postseason. And if you look at that, again, I don't think Ottawa is a very great, talented team. I don't think Columbus is particularly awesome. It's still a lot of teams to jump. It's still 2 teams that you need to get in front of, and then you either need to knock out a Boston or knock out an Islanders or a Penguins, right? I don't see it. It doesn't seem feasible. It doesn't seem likely. It doesn't seem logical. I think you probably end up in a scenario where the Flyers have to go somewhere around 12-5 or like 11-4-1 does hold on, 17 games. 11-4-1 doesn't make sense. 12-5, 11-4-2, right? That gets you 17 games. 11-4-2 is probably okay. Yeah. Can they play 11-4-2 down the stretch? No. Like I I don't see it. I mean, we could take a look at the Flyers schedule. I think we should. Let's actually do a thought exercise here. It feels like a little bit of a low energy Friday here, but like we're trying to be analytical here, okay? We're trying to be realistic, and we're trying to live in a world where this team that continues to perplex is somehow in this hockey purgatory range where we have to look at it through the lens of the playoffs, and then we'll take a look at the lens of the draft lottery as well. Okay, let's go through this. Shall we? Let's shall. All right. Switch to this. All right, so here's the schedule, right? Here's the upcoming schedule. So you've got Columbus. In the case of Columbus, you have a team that you do have to jump. So Saturday's game at a 7:30 start, which I heard Bundy hates. If you beat Columbus on Saturday, well, now you're talking about one fewer team to have to leapfrog, right? Then you go out west. And next Wednesday, the Flyers are in Anaheim for the Cutter Gauthier game. Anaheim is a team that's going to be up for that game. Anaheim also leads the Pacific Division. That's going to be a tough game. I don't like their chances. Okay. So there's one loss. Let's just say the Flyers get a loser point against Columbus. All right, 0-1. They lose to Anaheim, 0-1. We're already off to a bad start. Then they take on the Kings. I think it's conceivable they could beat the Kings. All right, 1-1. San Jose. San Jose's afternoon game, 4 o'clock start. All right, let's say they could beat the Sharks. I don't know if they can, but let's say they can. 2-1. Then they come home and they take on Columbus again. Let's say they get a win. Now they're 3-1. Rick Tockett's boys are feeling great. Then the Flyers have to play the Blackhawks. So the Blackhawks stink. Okay, 4-1. We're going incredibly optimistic here, like overly optimistic to a point that I actually hate myself. Okay. Then you've got Detroit. You say to yourself, all right, can they get past Detroit? Right now we have them at 4-1. I'm going to give them an overtime loss to Detroit. So 4-1. Dallas. No. 4-2. At Washington. Let's go 5-2. All right. 5-2. Now you're in April. This is where it gets tricky. Home against the Red Wings. Give them a win. 6-2. On the road against the Islanders. Lose. In regulation. 6-3. In Boston. Home against Boston. Say they win that game. I don't know. 7-3. They go to New Jersey. They take on the Devils. They're riding a 7-3 stretch. Let's say they beat the Devils. I don't know. 8-3. They go to Detroit. They lose. 8-4. They go to Winnipeg. And while they're out west, what did I say we're at? 8-4. They lose in overtime. 8-4. They play at home against Carolina. They lose. 8-5. And then they play at home against the Canadiens to close out the season. And I think they lose that game. But let's say they get it to a shootout. 8-5. That's 20 points. Is 20 points enough to get you one of those final wildcard spots? You have to make up a 5-point gap. You have to leapfrog 2 teams and have another one get knocked out. Now, luckily, as I mentioned, they will be playing the Red Wings. They'll be playing the Bruins, the Blue Jackets, and the Islanders. So they will be playing all of those teams that are ahead of them. But does 20 points in 35 games get it done? I still say no. I don't know how that could work. Now, is there a scenario where, I don't think 20 is enough. I really don't. I do think that there's a good chance Pittsburgh falls out. But 20 points, and by the way, I'm throwing out these ideas, right, and And I live with the matchups or live with the results by matchup as much as I want. I don't really care. But there hasn't been a lot this season to make me think that there's a legitimate chance that the Flyers could get 20 out of a possible 34 points. I haven't seen it. They haven't been consistent enough to even do that. So if you want to live in this world where the Flyers make the playoffs, let's just say hypothetically that's where you want to live. For the sake of your fandom, that is the most important thing to you. Without it, you have no purpose, right? Okay. That's insane. 20 points won't get it done. Which means that if I'm right, which I think I am, you then go back to these standings. And if you get 20 points and you finish at 93, but you're on the outside looking in, maybe you only miss the playoffs by 3 points, 2 points, 4 points. What does that mean? Yes, friends, that means hockey purgatory. But what does that mean holistically? Okay, let's take a look now through the other lens. The other lens is the lottery, right? This is where people who ultimately think this team needs more elite talent, which it does. There is no free agent class. There's not. This is where you then have to look. Okay, so here's where the Flyers are at right now. 14th best odds of getting the number 1 overall pick. Except you can't get the number 1 overall pick at 14. You can only jump up 10 spots. And as we talked about previously, that means in order for you to even qualify, you have to get here to where LA is at. Right? You have to get here. Sorry, you have to get to where Seattle's at. 3% chance. Right? And as I've said how many times? I've said many times now. It's really not even so much about trying to get that number 1 overall pick. It's about you trying to get into a spot where if you get jumped twice, you're not picking down around 13, 14, 15. You want to be somewhere up here where if you do get bumped down from, say, number 6, you pick at number 8. And people can make the argument that the difference between pick number 8 and pick number 12 might not be that different. Depending on the draft, pick number 8 to pick number 17 might not be that different. I would still much rather, if I trust my scouts and if I trust the people that I've hired to evaluate the talent, I'd rather give them as many options at number 8 rather than be left with whoever might be on my board at number 17. Okay. So if the Flyers were to do what I just said, if they were to somehow get 20 points out of 34, still miss the playoffs, I want you to just take a look at this pack of teams, right? So you miss the playoffs. Do I think you're going to be able to make much motion here? Well, no. If you're on the outside looking in at the playoffs, then that means you're somewhere around here, kind of where they're at right now. You have no shot of moving up to the number 1 overall pick. It is essentially you are going to pick in hockey purgatory. This is why there's so much frustration, right? Because even if you want to live in the fan world of saying, I want to watch my team win games, I want them to win as many games as possible, 20 points in 34 games doesn't get it done. And it also essentially solidifies your position at picking somewhere around 14 or 15. Is that helpful? Who does that help? Right? Like if you want to play out the hockey guy mentality. Well, players go out to win every game there, and you can't tell players to go out and lose. Yeah, I get it. If you want to be one of those people, right, and you want to be the people who go out and cheer for the team to win, are the Flyers in a better position if they get 20 of 34 points, they finish outside of the playoffs, and they pick number 14 or 15? Has there been anything from a scouting perspective, from a draft perspective with Brett Flair that makes you say they're going to find a bona fide stud at 14 or 15? The answer is no. The only time since Brett Flair has been here, right? The only time this team has managed to take guys that are viewed as having legitimately significantly high upside. Cutter Gauthier at number 5 in 2022. Matvei Michkov, who fell to the Flyers because of geopolitical reasons at number 7. And then Porter Martone, who I think you could make an argument. Did Porter Martone really fall to the Flyers? There were other centers on the board that some might have been interested in, but he also fell to you. But if you think about it, where were you in that draft? What was your positioning? It's not very complicated, right? When you're in a high enough position to take a guy like Martone at number 6, typically you're going to hit, or you hope so. You don't want to be Columbus, who took David Jiricek, a pick after Cutter Gauthier, and now he's been traded twice, and now he ends up landing on the Flyers anyway. Therein lies your problem. With Flair here, they have only really found those big success stories in the first round when they're picking in that top 7 range. Well, if they get 20 points in the next 34 games, they're not picking in the top 7. They'll be in that 14 to 15 range, which is where you found Chetlichenko following the bullshit fake playoff run. Now, I like Jack Nesbitt. I liked Roger McQueen more. I gave Danny the props. If you're going to go, big balls move and try to move up in the first round, good on you. He did. We'll see if Nesbitt becomes anything. I still hold out hope that Nesbitt's going to be a good player. Not a 1C. Could he be a 2C with size? Could he be a 3C? I don't know. I have no clue. All right, I'm going to go back out to the comments. I just wanted to make sure that we're looking at this thing in as fair of a way as we can. Some people like to brand me as being Mr. Negative because I think that this is an exercise in futility. It is. This is dumb. Where the Flyers are at right now and the conversation that we just had, where I went best case scenario, they get 20 points if you're one of the playoff people. This is a bullshit place to be in. This is the kind of place that this franchise has found itself in and year out. I continue to wonder why. I continue to ask why. And when you get the national people who say, can't really tell what the plan is, that's why. This has been the same place every single year for the last decade, virtually, right? Can they make a run? Can they get enough points? Oh, they just missed. Middle of the round. Okay. Going to go out to the comments. Ford calls it purgatory. He's correct. GJG says, my prediction, Flyers finish with a better point total than the Pens. They might. Vacant Alleyways over on YouTube says, they get killed by the Rangers and squeak out a win against the Wild. Make it make sense. It doesn't. That's the problem. I can't make heads or tails of it. None of it makes sense. K-Dub says, show me that 14th pick, baby. Frankly amazing, 6754. With a frankly amazing take here. I think this is good for their young players. I believe this is good development for the young core. You're certainly entitled to that opinion. Is winning better for young guys in the league? Yes. Is it better for young players like an Alex Bump, a Denver Barkey, a Matvei Michkov? Is it better for those guys to experience winning? Yes. Why? Because winning covers up a lot of issues. Winning, in a sense, kind of cures all. If you find yourself in the win column after a game, the mood in the room is better. Your teammates are getting along better. The coaches are maybe in a better mood. It's a better overall atmosphere to develop and grow in. And yet at the same time, you remove the human element for a second and you just look at how do you get better as an organization. It may help some of those younger guys in the locker room. It doesn't help the team. Now, at the same time, being a squad that goes out and barely ever wins, well, that's not good for development. And you could make a case that it can be super detrimental to younger players. If you spend multiple years, or 3 straight years, or 4 out of 5 years, kind of scraping the bottom of the league, right? Then it's different. Then I think you can make a case, while you might be able to acquire some elite or quasi-elite talent in the draft, you've probably damaged a lot of those younger guys along the way. Let's see. Greg Bondarenko's here. Hello, Greg. Jimmy Pine, 518, predicts another 3C with the 14th overall pick. Potentially. Fawcett calling this a manly tumbler. Thank you. Thank you, Andrew. Thank you. Philly Sports Experts 1949. The Flyers are pathetic. Another 15th overall pick. Yeah, there's a good chance. Pretty good chance. Tony Louie. 16th pick, here we come. Maybe we can get Herman Rupsov's brother or Jet Lachenko's cousin. Does Jay O'Brien have any siblings? Hashtag hockey purgatory. A lot of pain. A lot of pain. A lot of pain. Vacant Alleyways, by the way, also says subs. I don't know if this was that might have actually been about the Talercio sub. But if you are wondering about the subscriptions here to the Russ Joy Show, I'll tell you, it continues to get better. 2,227 as of recording right now. If you haven't subscribed already, like the video, share the video, subscribe, ring the bell to get notified whenever we go live with an episode. I'm starting to think that 3,000, not tomorrow, not next week, that could be off in the horizon. Who knows? It's up to you. If you spread the word about the show, you're helping a guy out. Many blessings. Okay. Let's see. Ford is familiar with Talercio's, correct. It's a great place. Great place. They treated our kids well when we took them up there for the first time. Chris Freed says noon is the new 10 a.m. To be clear, the show is going to be at 10 a.m., okay? Show's at 10 a.m. Monday, Wednesday, Friday for the foreseeable future. I got called into a couple of important calls today. I could not avoid it. I had to go up to New York for work on Wednesday. I could not avoid it. And I'm also grateful that I get to be part of those calls and part of those meetings and conferences. So, yeah. Let's see. Ryan Webb trying to stick it to me on the fasting. Says, I'm eating lunch right now and it tastes so good. Thank you. Tony Louie on the fasting says, all your gains are going to evaporate. That means no more medium t-shirts. Fair. I think I need to lose a little bit. I do. Bondarenko's right. If I recall, last time you tried the 72-hour fast, you ate Chick-fil-A as your last meal before the fast. Not proper nutrition and protein. I ate a Talercio's. I had the Caesar's Palace. It's a chicken parm and Caesar salad with croutons on a seeded roll. Fantastic. All right. I'm getting hungry though. This is a problem. Now I'm getting hungry thinking about it. So, yeah, not great. Leave the Russ, take the cannoli. All right. I got to tell you, the thing that kills me right now is I would like the Flyers to win. Really, though, I would. I would like to see the Flyers make the playoffs. Just not now. Not this year. I truly believe, in my heart of hearts, Danny Briere is a better GM than Chuck Fletcher was. I think that for all the times I ragged on Chuck Fletcher for the unintentional tank, because Chuck was just an incompetent executive, and they ended up picking high, right? I don't think that Briere is going to do that. I think that he will, this offseason, make enough moves to make this team a playoff team next year through trade. It's going to have to be through trade, though there's a big balls move he could make, which we talked about on Snow the Goalie last night. If you missed it with me and Bill Meltzer, you can go check it out on YouTube. It'll be in the podcast feed later. We did have a conversation about a possibility. I'll bring that up here in a second. I think this is the last time you're going to see the Flyers in the draft lottery for a while, if they are in the draft lottery. That's why I am so hell-bent on them finishing as high in the lottery standings as they can. And again, it's not about getting that number 1 overall pick. It's about the protection against getting jumped. Finish around 8. Finish with the 8th best odds of the number 1 overall pick, and I'll be happy, because that means that you can finish no lower than 10th. Like, again, look at it through that lens. You can look at it through the crazy playoff lens, or you can look at it through the tank lens, right? You can look at it through the draft lens. 73 points in 65 games played. Can you get to where New Jersey's at? 66 points. It's a 7-point gap, same amount of games played. Can you make up that 7-point gap? Can New Jersey make up that 7-point gap? Do you have a way as a team to look at the schedule that we went over before? And let's do this through a somewhat realistic lens really quickly, right? Because I did it before where I was trying to look for the path to the playoffs. Let's play this out the way that I think it actually will. Okay. 0-1, 0-1-1, 0-2 and 1, 0-2 and 2, 1-2 and 2, 2-2 and 2, 2-3 and 2, 2-4 and 2, 2-4 and 3, 3-4 and 3, 3-4 and 4. Call it 4-4 and 4. 4-4 and 5. Did I say 4-4 and 5? So 4-5 and 5. 4-6 and 5. 4-7 and 5. 5-7 and 5. Let me make it a little bit prettier. 6-6 and 5. 6-6 and 5. 12 points. Plus 5 on the end. 17. It's even not that far away, right? I tried to find the positive way. We only got to 20. I did it the other way, and I got us to 17. And that's trying to look at it through a somewhat realistic but kind of skewing negative lens. It's a difference of 3 points, which again means they're not going to end up in the playoffs, and they're not going to end up because at that point, 17 points, what does 17 points mean relative to the other teams in the draft lottery? Right? 17 points gets you to 90. Is Seattle going to touch 90? No. Is Los Angeles going to touch 90? No. Nashville going to touch 90? No. Six, 6, and 5. That breaks you. Think about that. 6, 6, and 5. 6 and 11, if you like to look at it in terms of wins and losses. And you still, New Jersey, are they going to get to 90 points? No. Is Toronto going to get to 90 points? No. And I'll go to Boston. So, this is where I want you to end up. Probably not going to end up there. That's rough. It's a rough look. So can I make a pitch? Can I make a pitch really quickly? The Flyers might actually be better. They might actually have a better chance of making the playoffs. Can I pitch you on the idea that now, having taken a look at both paths, the Flyers should try to make the playoffs? They should. If we look at, okay, how do I make this in a cogent way? This is difficult. Okay. I think I got it. This is not good. Okay. So I had them trying to get to 20 points before. So that was 8, 5, and 2. Okay. So 17 games remaining in this Flyers season. If you look at their schedule with an optimistic perspective and they somehow go 18, 5, and 4, and they end up with 20 points out of the remaining 34, I still think they miss the playoffs. They missed the playoffs with 93 points. They probably missed by 3 or so points. In a more realistic scenario, they go 6, 6, and 5, and they end up finishing with 21 points. Or they go 6, 5, and 6. 6, 5, and 6. And they end up with 18 points. Whatever it is, right? They still are so far ahead of teams like New Jersey, Nashville, the Toronto pick that'll convey to Boston, Los Angeles, Nashville. They don't have a way to jump those teams down in terms of trying to get a better percentage in that lottery or getting lottery protection where if you get jumped twice, it doesn't knock you out of the top 10. They're so far away from being able to do that. To me, it doesn't. These last 17 games don't really matter. They don't change much. They don't. So here's the question. If you're looking at it like this, if you look at it through the lens of 20 points being the best case scenario, 16 points or so being the more realistic scenario, and either way, you're going to finish at 14th or 15th in the draft lottery. Is it better for the Flyers to just win the extra couple of games and have a couple more moments where these young guys, your Denver Barkeys of the world, your Alex Bump, Matvei Michkov, and that young nucleus, and I would expect at some point David Juracek will be here. Depending on how the playoffs go in college, Porter Martone likely will be here for a stretch at the end of the season. Is it better for the team and better for those young guys and better for their development to find some success and end the season on a positive note and get 8 wins instead of 6? Yeah, on a human level, it probably is. But man, that's the crazy thing. The way that I see this playing out, it doesn't really matter if you look at it through the playoff positivity lens or you look at it through the realistic trying to get into the lottery lens. They are going to finish somewhere under 500 in terms of wins versus combined regulation, overtime, and shootout losses. They're going to finish under 500, and they're still not going to be able to make a lot of movement. That's crazy. It is legitimately insane. This is why people like me are so frustrated. It would be great to see the bottom either fall all the way out or them to go on a total heater. And in a weird way, I could almost see this team going on more of a heater than I could see the bottom falling out. It would take multiple injuries at this point. Actually, no, it would take one. If anything, God forbid, happens to Dan Vladar, he tweaks a groin or something, they're fucked. They will, the bottom will fall out in a massive way. That is the only player right now who has any real bearing on whether or not this team bottoms out or not. If Vladar is out, boop, that's it. Just about anybody else, they will stay kind of afloat. Gritty's not being serious, but Gritty says Ersson is good. No, he's not. Stop that. Okay. I wanted to do this thought exercise today. I had all this other stuff that I wanted to get to, and we're going to get to it here. But we did the thought exercise. 17 games to go. You guys can let me know in the comments. What do you think is more likely? Healthy Productions says, that's what I've been telling you. It's too late in the season to tank. Well, that's why I've been so frustrated. That's why I've been frustrated all year. That they find themselves in the same zone, same area all the time. Sloppy414 asks, so if they do make the playoffs, would they have Forster available by then? Okay, I do not recall off the top of my head what the playoff roster restriction is. In theory, Tyson Forster was going to be potentially available by the second round of the playoffs. If the Flyers somehow over these 17 games go on enough of a heater to make the playoffs, they will not be able to get past a team like Carolina or Tampa Bay to make it to the second round. So I don't think it matters. If they were in a scenario where instead of trying to fight for that wild card spot, if they were the second team in the Metropolitan and they had a somewhat favorable matchup in the first round, well, then maybe you're having a conversation about Tyson Forster. But no, no. Mm-mm. Now, do I think Tyson Forster would work his ass off to try to get back? Yes. But I just don't see it. Let's see. Zach Weeks 299 says there's always the Toronto pick, which in all reality will be 2028, but they look terrible, and I'm not sure they're getting any better, or they were getting any better before they get worse. Austin Matthews going down almost ensures a top 5 pick this year. If you didn't see the hit last night that Radko Gudas put on Austin Matthews, knee-to-knee hit, it's a dirty play. I mean, listen, when Radko Gudas was here, I liked Radko Gudas. If I were a player, I would certainly rather have Radko Gudas on my team as opposed to being across from me. But Radko Gudas makes some good clean hits, and Radko Gudas makes some dirty hits. Gudas knocked Crosby out of the Olympics, cost him the opportunity to compete in a gold medal game. The hit on Austin Matthews was gross. He extended his knee. You watch him in real time flex his knee to go at Matthews knee to knee. And then it came out today that he's getting a call from the league office, which means he can't get suspended longer than 5 games, which is bullshit. All right, like I have no skin in the game for Toronto, right? No skin in the game whatsoever. That was a bullshit hit. That was not a clean hit. And yet, 5 games maximum. Maximum. Philly fan tried to do the math here. Said if the Flyers go 9-5-3, which they can't, there's only 17 games left. Oh, that is 17. Never mind. I'm bad. My bad. 14 plus 3. I can do math. Flyers go 9-5-3. Pittsburgh goes 5-8-4, which is possible because of their schedule. Columbus goes 6-7-4. Flyers finish 1 point above both teams. Can they go 9-5-3? Can they go 1 game over 500 in terms of wins versus losses? Maybe. I don't know. I really don't know. All right. That's rough. It's just really, really rough. Okay. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens with the Fly guys. Will they go on a run? We'll find out. We're going to find out soon. I don't see it, but maybe. If they go on a heater, don't get me wrong, I will be happy to be able to cover a team going on a last-second playoff hunt if I think it feels real. Now, here are some things that we can actually look at right now with this team and say positive vibes are real. Trevor Zegras getting an actual look at center. That's a good positive vibe. Jamie Drysdale's play this season as a whole, but especially recently, that is cause for concern. If you're the opposition, see what I did there? Jamie Drysdale's been really, really good. I actually have a thought. Amadeo's going to love this. What if I tell you the Flyers didn't lose the Cutter Gauthier for Jamie Drysdale trade? Do I believe that? I don't know. But let's play this one out for a second. Cutter Gauthier is going to be a 40-plus goal scorer. He's already on... You cannot take away what Cutter Gauthier is doing. He's been an absolute stud for Anaheim. He's essentially the missing piece. He's the thing that the Flyers have long needed, a legitimate sniper. And now he's taking faceoffs and winning them at a 61% clip. And there are some conversations going on about, will Quenneville look to make Cutter Gauthier a center? If not this year, then next year. Could it happen? Indeed, it could. And so on the surface, if you look at the Drysdale trade, you say there is no chance in hell that the Flyers won that deal. Allow me for 1 second to make a very simple point, okay? If by the end of this, right, if you add everything up together, the Flyers were able to get Jamie Drysdale, who right now looks like a better, more well-rounded defenseman than the guy that they were initially getting from Anaheim, a guy who had some comparisons to a Shane Gostisbehere. Would he be a point producer, but only with the man advantage? Drysdale's proven to be a better overall defenseman. And despite the fact that people don't ever really seem to kind of keep this in mind, he's only 23, Drysdale. He will continue to get better. So if you got back a guy who at worst is a second pair defenseman, you might be able to make a case, could be the number 2 guy on a top pair, maybe. I'm not saying he will be, but I'm saying it's possible. Or he's a second pair defenseman who can ultimately be a power play quarterback. And then you add into that the fact that the Flyers, kind of out of necessity, but also because of the way the draft board fell, got Porter Martone, who looks like he will be a sniper. Admittedly, though, we've only seen it at the college level this season. If Martone comes up and Martone starts to flash 30-plus goal potential, and you look at this thing on aggregate, and you say, yes, it sucked to lose Cutter Gauthier. But you ended up with a guy who's at worst a second-pair defenseman and a power play quarterback down the line. And you ultimately landed Porter Martone. Are those two guys on aggregate better than having Gauthier here, who was a malcontent and didn't want to play for you? I don't know. You could also push right back and say, if the Flyers had Gauthier, they would have a near 40-goal score, and you wouldn't have to worry about any of it. I would push back. If Gauthier were here right now, you would have not landed Porter Martone in the last draft. You certainly would be very much in this like general, I think, hockey purgatory area. You would also have another hole on the blue line. I don't know. I think that Gauthier is still clearly the highest guy right now. I think right now, counting stat-wise, very clearly Cutter Gauthier is the guy. If Martone becomes close to a 40-goal scorer and Drysdale reaches that potential, which seemed totally out of the question a year ago, and now all of a sudden looks like it could be a thing, maybe the Flyers don't end up getting railroaded in that trade. Maybe we don't look back on this 5 or 10 years from now and say, oh yeah, the Flyers got the better of that deal. Maybe we look back on it and say, yeah, that hurt. Like the first couple of years of that trade being made, it looked like the Flyers got boat raced, but by the end, and then end up working out okay. I don't really believe anything I just said. I'm just trying to play out a thought experiment. What if Porter Martone becomes a better goal scorer than Cutter Gauthier? Does that change things? If Gauthier maxes out at like a 37 goal score consistently, and Martone comes up and he's a 40-plus goal scorer, does that change things? Because if Gauthier's here, you don't get Martone. Yeah. Yeah, I don't think I believe a lot of this. NM Stack 78 says Cutter would be on the fourth line with this clown behind the bench. I wonder, would Gauthier have played here if Tortorella was not? I think so. Stephen K. 6781 says, I truly want to know who screwed up the thing with Cutter. It's been put out there. People don't like hearing things, right? I am 100% convinced there was a promise made to Gauthier that he would be on the NHL roster when Chuck Fletcher drafted him. Chuck Fletcher got fired. I don't think the new regime wanted to guarantee Cutter Gauthier a spot. I'm 1,000% convinced. I've heard enough things that make me think there's a very good chance that the new regime came in and they did not honor this apparent promise, or what was very much believed to be a promise from Chuck Fletcher. And then John Tortorella was here. And I don't think that Tortorella was going to immediately insert Cutter Gauthier into the lineup. I think that Cutter Gauthier did not want to have to deal with John Tortorella and the mind games and the kind of scratchings and benchings that Michkov went through as a rookie. And you could say that that's a bad attitude thing from Gauthier, and I think that you're right to a large extent. I don't think it was ever going to work as long as Torts was the coach. And by the way, for as much flack as Sanfilippo took on Snow the goalie about the Kevin Hayes thing, I want you to think about the amount of times that you've had to work with people, right? And there's somebody you don't like working with. And maybe you express that to another person in your life, right? There is not a fucking chance on this earth that Kevin Hayes, who had the A stripped off his sweater, was going off and being effusive in his praise of playing under John Tortorella. Not a chance. And it was already publicly confirmed by the organization and by the player. Kevin Hayes was the guy that was talking to Cutter Gauthier from the organization. We do not have any semblance of an idea that a Travis Konechny was constantly talking with Cutter Gauthier, that a Sean Couturier was constantly talking. Like, no. Hayes had the A stripped off the sweater, was constantly railroaded publicly post-game. There were comments constantly made by Torts. And when they moved off of Hayes, the thing that Torts kept coming back to is we had to clean up the locker room. Okay. Happens to coincide with Hayes being moved. So if you're going to talk shit, if you're going to have an issue, if you're going to vent to somebody, I would say it's higher than a 0% chance that Hayes may be intimated. It's not great. It's not great playing for Torts. I don't know if you want to deal with it. And if that's the case, and if a promise from the previous GM/president of hockey ops was not being honored by the new regime, it's not complicated to see why Gauthier didn't want to play here. I don't think this is that I don't think this is that difficult. But I think people just like the idea of being mad about whatever. I'm 1,000% convinced that that's what happened. No one has been able to privately give me any kind of information or evidence to the contrary. I am 1,000% convinced that that is what happened. And by the way, I've brought this up a bunch of times. You can use this as fodder if you want to, if you're a Flyers fan. For all the people who clowned Sanfilippo about the report, I know who the info was from. And if that person lied about that, that would spell some real big issues, just in general. And I'll take it one step further. Partnership with the Flyers. Report came out on the show. Partnered with the team in the fucking balcony of the arena. If the Flyers were convinced that Sanfilippo pulled information out of his ass, you know what would have had to happen? Someone would have probably requested a retraction. Do you know what never came down? A retraction. I'm just saying. Do the math. And then let me know what you think. Okay. Let's see. Anything else I wanted to get to over there? Zach Weeks is right, though. I think people are more pissed with Cutter that he goes to the Flyers Legends. I think that was a real childish move. Like not meeting with John LeClaire, not meeting with Patrick Sharp when they went across the world to go do it. Like I thought that was like a total joke. That was a total joke. Amadeo says, so what you're saying is Briere screwed it up. No, I'm saying that if Fletcher gave a promise and then Briere came in and said, I'm not giving you that same promise, do you blame somebody if their predecessor made what you deem to be a bad business decision? If a commitment comes in from somebody who ultimately gets fired and then you replace them and you don't want to go through with that and there's nothing on paper that says you have to, not saying that was a screw up, just noting like, I think that they wanted to try to set the precedent that nothing is guaranteed. Was it good? I don't know. All right. Stephen K. 6781 asks, here's a boneheaded question. If Comcast didn't own the team, does the team still suck as bad? I don't know. I don't think Comcast is the issue here, though. At least now. Like, I don't think Comcast is the issue. Comcast wants to spend the money. Spectacor wants to spend the money. They just don't have the ability to outspend everybody because of the cap. That's honestly the dumbest thing that the Flyers were ever part of. It's one of the dumbest things that Ed Snyder was ever part of. You don't allow the league to put in a salary cap. That was one of the things that allowed you to spend your way out of bad decisions. And once that was gone, so too was a massive advantage that Philadelphia had in the hockey market. That was it. All right. I am going to move on to the other stuff, which we'll have to do in somewhat rapid fire succession. But I'm actually glad that we did 58 minutes on the Flyers. It's probably like, 53 minutes on the Flyers, 5 on a 72-hour fast, right? Let's go to a couple of the other things that I wanted to get to today, and then we're going to roll out. One of the things that I don't even have, there's not like a long soliloquy here to do. The Sixers are done. It's over. We can officially put the fork in the Sixers season. Tyrese Maxey's out. Kelly Oubre's out. The Tyrese Maxey news was probably the dumbest bit of news, the least surprising update about getting reevaluated. I got to tell you, it might be the most predictable and simultaneously annoying update we've gotten. So Shams put this out a few days ago, but here's your Tyrese Maxey news that everyone is already aware of. But Maxey was diagnosed with a tendon injury in his right pinky finger. Remember, we clowned this on Monday that they were calling it the fifth finger in his pinky finger. He will be reevaluated in 3 weeks. 3 weeks. for a pinky injury. Now, if the Sixers were in legit playoff contention, if they were at the top half of the Eastern Conference, Tyrese Maxey's playing through this injury. I would be fairly convinced that he would. But the team very clearly does not want him to play. Why? Because you got to remember, there's that protection on the pick that they now owe to the Thunder that they somehow didn't get back in the Jared McCain deal, which we're not going to relitigate. But as long as Tyrese Maxey's out, as long as Joel Embiid is going to be in and out of the lineup due to this oblique injury, as long as you still have Paul George missing more games because of suspension, to me, it's over. I would love to live in a world where the Sixers make the playoffs, they get everybody back healthy, and they move on, and everybody's thrilled. I find it really hard to imagine that that's what we're going to get. I really do. If the season were to end right now, if the season ended today, the Sixers would play the Charlotte Hornets in a play-in game. And then they would go into the playoffs as the 8th seed and take on the Detroit Pistons. Now, I will say, if you want a little bit of positivity, if I may, I don't fear the Detroit Pistons. You cannot scare me if the Sixers did somehow bring back a fully healthy Tyrese Maxey, VJ Edgecombe, Joel Embiid, Paul George back with a fire in his belly after suspension. I would actually give the Sixers a fighting chance against Cade Cunningham and the Detroit Pistons. You can't get me to fear Tobias Harris. You can't do it. Tobias Harris could have his finger on the nuke. I don't care. Do not care. He could have a flamethrower and I could be covered in gasoline. I don't fear Tobias Harris. The problem is the Sixers can't stay healthy. They can't get healthy. They can't remain healthy long enough for it to matter. It's incredibly frustrating. Now, if you have to look at it right now, again, playoff picture, they would have to be in the play-in. They'd take on Detroit. That's rough. Okay? That's tough. I would much rather play Detroit than Boston. Right now, Boston's the number 2 seed, and they just got back Jason Tatum. I would not want to play Boston. Detroit, I think there's an exploitable matchup. If the Sixers somehow, through divine intervention, could get the 6th seed and play the Knicks, I think the Sixers actually could match up pretty well against the Knicks. Because I think Karl Anthony Towns is soft as baby shit. I'm not saying they would win a first-round series. The only team I would actively fear in that top 3 is Boston, without a doubt. Do you fear Cleveland, the number 4 seed with James Harden? All-time playoff performer, James Harden. No. This is why it's so frustrating, too. This Eastern Conference, I would, if I were going to place a bet right now, it would be on Boston to come out of the conference. I honestly think that Boston right now is in a position where they should probably win this conference. It is a woeful group of teams. We're not that far removed from a lot of questions, a lot of active questions around Orlando and whether or not Orlando was the most disappointing team. Atlanta's have been a very disappointing team. But I think people were expecting Orlando to take the next step, and they didn't. I don't believe in Cleveland, especially led by James Harden going into the playoffs. Again, the Knicks, I don't see it. Miami, it's Boston's conference to lose. All right, so there we are. Unfortunately, I kind of think this is probably it for the Sixers. I don't see it. I really don't. All right, I have good news. If you want good news, of course you want good news. We all want good news. If you're an Eagles fan, there is a little bit of positivity. Now, this came up earlier in the week, and I totally missed it, so this is my fault. You remember how Cam Jurgens went down to Medellin? He was down in Colombia. He got stem cell treatment. They did the spinning of his blood, right? They oxygenated his blood, all that lovely stuff. I think that when Cam Jurgens went down there, I said, it'd be great to hear that Landon Dickerson did something similar, right? If Landon Dickerson went and got all kinds of quasi-experimental treatment, that would probably be a good thing for him. Be a good thing for the Eagles because you need Landon Dickerson to be healthy. Well, he was on Instagram earlier this week. And take a goosey gander at what Landon Dickerson put onto Instagram. I think this was on an Instagram story. Apparently, he also went to Medellin recently. As you can see, it says Health Reset Week. They have BioAccelerator tagged on the post right here. And if you go back to Cam Jurgens had the message Go Birds with his signature. And it was BioAccelerator down in Medellin. So it does, in fact, appear Landon Dickerson went to the same place as Cam Jurgens. Now, am I willing to say that the Colombian treatment of his injuries, of which we believe there were multiple, that's going to all of a sudden reset Landon Dickerson's health, and now all of a sudden he's going to go back to being an elite interior lineman for this team? I don't know. I would certainly much rather live in a world where you could feel good about Landon Dickerson being a guy who could be relied upon. And if Dickerson and Jurgens are both back and healthy, or certainly closer to healthier than they were at any point last season, well, then I like the Eagles' chances of rebounding next year. And that, by the way, that doesn't even include whatever happens with A.J. Brown. Because the rumor came out earlier today, or last night, Diana Rossini out there she's got a giant spoon. Did you know that? Diana Rossini, she's got a big old spoon. She likes to stir some shiznit. She put out that the Rams have actively been monitoring the A.J. Brown situation, and that the Rams apparently explored a potential trade, and that they're still actively monitoring whether or not the Eagles are open to shipping A.J. Brown. Can I ask a question? On what planet does it make sense for the Eagles to trade A.J. Brown within the conference? I hate the idea of them making a move and potentially sending him to like New England. Why in the love of any good thing in this world would the Eagles feel moved by the Holy Spirit to send him within the conference? And not just within the conference, but send him to a team that you're probably going to have to run into at some point in the not too distant future, right? Like if you're going to go into the playoffs next year, very good chance the Rams are going to be there. Why would you trade him to Los Angeles? Why? You don't do that. That would be incredibly stupid. So I don't think that's true. I just think it's Diana Rossini. She's got the big old spoon out. Okay. Now there was something else I did need to get to before we head out. Actually, two. Here, we'll break up the monotony of the show. Let's get another voice on the show. Some of you are going to like this voice, and some of you are going to hate this voice. But I saw this going around today, and I consider me intrigued. Consider me intrigued. I've been very intrigued by this whole idea of a UFC event at the White House. I am. I'm intrigued by it. Political leanings aside, for all of you, the whole concept, like I still don't know where they're putting the octagon. But Dana White came out, and in a world where we're seeing constant ticket overpricing, especially by TKO, who owns UFC, owns WWE, we've now seen WWE have to drop ticket prices again for WrestleMania because it wasn't selling well enough in Las Vegas. Dana White talked about how they're going to ticket the UFC event.
The way that the White House is laid out, you got the White House, you got the South Lawn, and then there's a road, and then the ellipse is a park that's right there. We're going to be ticketing 85,000 people in the ellipse, and the tickets are free. And we'll announce how we're going to be giving them away soon. But you should plan on going to Washington, D.C. for this event.
I just heard 85,000 tickets, and I heard the word free. Now, obviously, right, your seats aren't going to be incredible. And it's going to look like two little ants fighting each other, right? 85,000 free tickets. That's a hell of an atmosphere. I'm just saying, like I find that interesting. Now, if you want to be in a seat where you actually can see what's happening in the octagon, that's going to run you a lot of money. I think we can probably say it's going to be a considerable amount of money. 85,000 free tickets. I found that interesting. I really did. All right, last thing I wanted to get to. Did you know Aaron Nola did something good? Not for the Phillies. Aaron Nola did something that we need to shout out on this show because I am as critical as it gets of Aaron Nola, who, by the way, I don't dislike Aaron Nola, the human being. Aaron Nola, the human being, Seems like a good dude. Legitimate. Good dude. He's not been particularly good in recent years for the Phillies. And as somebody from the great city of Pottsville, Pennsylvania, where I spent my youth, I would note he was the first real athlete sponsored by Yingling. And I thought that he came up small for those fine folks in Pottsville. They were looking for a savior, and Aaron Nola was not that guy. But here's a little bit of positivity that you can lock in on. Aaron Nola only allowed 4 hits over 5 scoreless innings for Team Italy in the World Baseball Classic. And this is a thing that kind of hone in on. His velocity, right? So take a look at this. These are the pitches where he went 93.6 miles per hour and above, including 2 pitches that went over 94. A 4-seam fastball that went 94.3, a sinker that went 94.5. And the reason that this is notable is because I'm not the Jamoke who recognized this. It was Corey Seidman. Corey Seidman put out that Nola hit 94.5 miles per hour in that last start. He reached that velocity only 3 times last season. It's early, right? Spring training is going on in Major League Baseball camps. But the fact that he managed to hit that number and he only touched 94.5 3 times last year, does that portend good things happening for Aaron Nola and this Philadelphia Phillies team? I don't know. I have no idea. But I want to believe that it's going to be a good sign. I'll tell you what. I'm going to go a step further. I will. I'm going to go a step further. I think Aaron Nola has done great things for Italian Americans. And I'll tell you something even more. All right? When I see this image, and when you see this image, if you're a fellow Italian American, this is a good look right here. Look at that, man. Aaron Nola, draped in the Italian flag. 5 scoreless innings by that man. And by the way, in doing so, it saved the U.S.'s ass because the U.S. manager thought that his team was already through before they played Italy and then lost to Italy. Massive game. Team USA's manager had no idea. So Aaron Nola saved Team USA, and he also delivered in a big way for Team Italy. So good on Aaron Nola. Good on him. We don't usually get the opportunity to give him a lot of kudos. But you know what? Good on him. Good on you, Aaron Nola. Here's to you. All right, now I will be back on Monday. Now I have sort of announcements going on, okay? 1. Saturday, 7:30 p.m. start. Going over to the Flyers game. So you can join me over on the Snow the Goalie channels. If you missed last night's episode, Bill Meltzer and I, we did Snow the Goalie together at Chicks and Pete's in Bordentown last night. It's on YouTube. It'll be in the podcast feed soon. Monday, I'm back here doing the Russ Joy Show, which you know because you're smart. It's also the name of the show. But I have been told, I have been asked, and I have accepted for the first time, unless something changes. I have been asked for the first time. I'll be on TV. That's right. I'll be on TV. Because Monday night, over on the Fantastic Sports Show over on Fox 29, they said, we need that mustache. They didn't say that, but I think that's what they mean. They said, we need that mustache on the TV. It's going to send our ratings through the roof. And so, I'll be on Fox 29 on Monday night for the Fantastic Sports Show. So we're going to have a fantastic morning on Monday on the Russ Joy Show. And then we're going to have a fantastic sports show Monday night, Fox 29. Make sure you set the DVR. Hopefully I don't embarrass myself too much. All right. I will talk to each and every one of you on Monday. Do me a favor if you haven't done so already. Like the video, share the video, subscribe, ring the bell to get notified whenever we go live with an episode. If you see clips going around on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, hit them with a like. Follow those accounts. Subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Pandora, Amazon Music, wherever you get your podcast. And do me a favor. Spread the word about the show. It's helpful. And it's free. So, that's all. I will talk to all of you on Monday here on The Russ Joy Show. Until then, this has been The Russ Joy Show, and I've been Russ Joy, but you knew that already because you're smart. It's also the name of the show. Drop in the comments, how long will my 72-hour fast actually last? We are currently at 15 hours now. I like my chances. 15 hours. 15 hours down. 57 to go. I'm liking it. All right, I'll talk to all of you on Monday here on The Russ Joy Show.